Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's On the Sofa. Something a bit different tonight. We have Hannah Dosanjh and Gilly Gray, who are going to be asking for things from yourselves. Hannah is writing a book, a children's book about the history of Swindon, and there'll be requests wanted. So wait and see that in a moment. So I hope everybody who went to Morecambe has got back and has got over the long journey. But we're still unbeaten, so can all be good. So let's bring Vic on.
Hi, Chris.
Hello.
Hiya. Yeah, I'm still a little bit jet lagged, if I'm truthful. Following the weekend, it's a long old day, wasn't it? So, yes, a little bit on the jet lag side.
Yeah.
I've got some SAS travel news for you. Tomorrow night we've got phone bookings from 7 o'clock, and they're taking phone bookings for Bradford City, which is a week on Saturday. A very limited spaces available for Bradford City, but there are also spaces available for Notts County next Tuesday. And then, of course, it's Reading the following Tuesday. So a busy old time coming up for the town. Bradford, very limited spaces for a week on Saturday. Notts County, a week on Tuesday. And Reading, 2 weeks tomorrow, I think. Is that right? Yes, it is. So phone bookings only, SAS travel tomorrow night from 7. And, of course, we've got a very special event coming up on Wednesday, haven't we, Chris?
We certainly have. We're going to Melksham Town. So we've got a what we call a supporters out in the community, one of our supporters groups. So anybody in the Melksham area or anybody who wants to travel a bit further, please come and join us from 7 o'clock. We've got Paul Bodin and Phil King joining us. We'll have programmes and books to sell, and the evening is all in aid of Derby Rimmer. As you know, that's our charity of the season. So we're going to be out and about. So
more the merrier. The merrier.
Yes, exactly. There is food available. There's the bar and everything. So please, if you can come along, please come and join us. Also, one other thing, we have some Make a Difference tokens on our website. This is for homeless charities. So if you would like to purchase any, very easy, just go onto our website, stfc-osc.com, and go into our store. They're £1 each, and everything goes to the homeless charities. And that's through Dean McMeekin's started all that. So we're working with him to promote that. So we're doing really well at the moment. So the more the merrier on that one as well. That'd be great.
Sure.
Okay, well, so let's bring Hannah and Gilly on. So we have Hannah in a moment. See who turns up first. There we go.
Hey, there we are.
Hello.
There we go. Hiding in the background. Okay, so if you've got any questions for Hannah or Gilly, please leave them in the comments, but they will be asking questions of you as well. So please add anything into the comments and we'll pass them through. Okay, I'll see you later.
Chris, thanks ever so much. Hannah, hello to you. Gilly, hello to you. Thank you ever so much for joining us. And it's going to be a very interesting hour, I think, because this is slightly different. We're not talking about the weekend at Morecambe, as disappointing as the final minutes of that was. But we're going to talk about the history of Swindon Town Football Club, although slightly different. I think it's true to say. First of all, though, I wanted to get a little bit of background on you both and how we've reached this point. Let's start with you, Hannah. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am an ex-teacher, and during lockdown I wrote this book, which is a railway town called Swindon, because I'm always really been into history and social history, and Swindon has had a really bad press, but it's got the most amazing social history and industrial history, and I just didn't know any of it. During lockdown I read about it and I was just absolutely amazed, and I had this eureka moment where I thought, well, if there are no books for children about Swindon, I'll write one. So I did, and self-published it last year, and it's been selling really well, and people are really genuinely pleased to see something about Swindon. And Gilly was incredibly supportive and said, why don't you and I get together, because she's the super fan and I'll do the pictures, and we'll write one between us. And in between that, I also was asked to do a mural as part of Swindon Paint Fest. So I did one of the Swindon Town Legends, which Chris Kamara came to as well. So it's just been fantastic years, been a real eye-opener. So I've learnt a lot already.
I mean, I think that those murals have earned high praise, because sometimes when murals are done, they're kind of, but yeah. I mean, these are really, really good. And I think those who went along to the opening were very, very impressed. You must have been pleased with the reactions to that.
I was really delighted. I was pleased with the reaction as I was painting it. And I think what struck me was that there are a whole lot of people out there for whom the arts don't really resonate. They don't mean a lot. Because I think a lot of the subject matter, you know, murals and paintings and whatever, is appealing to a completely different set of people with different interests. And I had no end of sort of men sort of stopping to say, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so. Is that Don Rogers? Yes, it is, obviously. And, you know, and sort of naming them. And I had a card drawer up with 3 generations in it, and they wound down the window. And nobody asked me anything. Just the guy in the driving seat turned to his dad and said, "Dad, who are they?" And they had to sort of name them all along. So yeah, it was just really, really good. And I felt that I'd really hit, you know, a sort of a pulse of people that really would like to see more of the same. You know, stories about things that we can all relate to, real people that lived in real places that we can go to. And the more you kind of look for a story in this town, the more stories there are. It's absolutely phenomenal. And what blows me away is that nobody is writing about it or painting about it or shouting about it yet.
You're right, actually, because when you watch a television program and the word Swindon comes up, generally it's on the end of a joke, isn't it? About, you know, a magic roundabout or something or other. I mean, I don't know what it is about it. I mean, obviously it's a railway town, you know, and the history goes back to those days. Swine on the Hill, I think, is the original meaning of the word. I mean, why is it, do you think, that Swindon attracts that sort of joke? I mean, you know, for those of us who are born there, are Swindonians, you know, it's our hometown, for goodness sake, isn't it?
Well, I've got a couple of theories. So a friend said that she thought it was because it's an industrial town that sort of dropped onto the Wiltshire Downs. It's like it's a fish out of water, really. But I think it's just a place that's kind of lost its way and lost its confidence. And it shouldn't. It should be really proud of what it's always had. It's always been about engineering, making stuff, problem solving, striving. It's all of those things. And you just have to dig a little bit deeper to find all of those qualities and those stories and bring them to light for people to go, do you know what? Yeah. So I'm actually quite optimistic about Swindon and its future, but I do feel there is a lot of snobbery about it, and it does affect us and it does knock us. So we're going to have to overcome that and recognise all the good stuff we've got.
Sure. And that book, just hold it up once again, the book that you've already written. There we are. I mean, obviously, Isambard Kingdom Brunel plays a big part in the history of the town.
No, not really. No, it's Gooch. Daniel Gooch.
Well, true enough. Yes.
Okay, I won't tell you all about it, but
I'll stand corrected.
Yeah.
But the Great Western Railway, of course, was a huge factor in the growth of the town, wasn't it?
Absolutely enormous. It was one of the biggest factories in Europe. It covered a vast area that has since been demolished. And this is the mystery. I think after nationalisation of the railways, when things started to ebb away, and there were other industries created, luckily, so that, you know, there wasn't high unemployment. It's just that we had a lot of, I'm going to knock Londoners, but we had the London overspill after the war. They needed places to live, and they came here and just thought it was odd. And I think Londoners can be quite rude. I think they probably just looked at us and thought we were really parochial, is that the word? You know, a little bit odd. You know, we had our own way of doing things. It was the Swindon way, the GWR way. And suddenly they were just there taking the mick a bit and saying, well, that's, you know, that's not as amazing as you always thought it was. And at the same time, it's slowly ebbing away and business is going elsewhere. So what do you replace it with? If all you've had is one industry, and that all that culture that, you know, sort of revolved around that one industry, how do you then just transfer all of that loyalty onto something else? So it kind of lost its identity quite quickly. And then, of course, we didn't look after our significant buildings like the Mechanics Institution and the Health Hydro. And I think if we'd done that, now people would be saying, gosh, well done, you've really looked after your heritage. We'd love to come and see it. And then we'd have more money from tourism and people take us a bit more seriously. Whereas what we've got are buildings that have been let go and left to rot. What does that tell you about the sort of the thinking and the intelligence of a town? If your best assets are just left to fester, it doesn't look good. So that's what we need, is to start to recognise what could happen if we brought those back up. So the Health Hydro's having money spent on it, whether it's being spent in the right way, we still don't know. We'd like the small pool back, please, guys.
Well, my dad worked on the railway for many years, and then also worked in the car factory as well, of course. So, which is another big part of the town. Sean says, I think I mentioned it before, but I hope the mural ends up somewhere at the stadium and not in a skip when the development is finished there. And I think many people are worried about that. And it's such a great piece of work that you want to see it near the football ground and
I'd love to see it. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'd love to see it moved.
Well, we're going
we don't know what's going to happen until they start building, and when they finish building and they take it down. So I think it's up to, when it gets to that stage, when you can see building happening, it's up to I will speak to David Dewitt, who is the borough councillor officer in charge of this. But also, if people pass by and say, I hope you're not going to get rid of that, you know, whoever's on the building site, whoever's with the screwdriver unscrewing it, stop them and say, where's it going? Challenge them about it. Actually be those feet and eyes on the ground. Because it's really easy for things to go walkies.
Yeah, it is a fabulous piece of work, and we wouldn't want to lose that. Ivor says, Hannah, I work at the Zurich building next to the painting. I did chat with you about you painting as you were finishing it. Now you have finished it. Well done.
Thank you.
I mean, it is an amazing piece of work. And if you haven't seen it, it's in Carfax Street. Just go along, and there's lots of other stuff there. There's things like XTC and things like that on the hoardings as well. So, go and have a look. Hannah will talk in a minute a bit more, but Jenny, hello to you. Hi, where are you then in terms of your Swindon town life? How long have you been following them?
Since I was a child, I moved to Rawton and became aware of the club maybe when I was about 9 or 10, and went to games with friends and their parents. My dad was a pub landlord, so I didn't get taken to game. Well, I can remember my dad taking me to one game, but it wasn't a thing that that happened. But interestingly, my dad had organised a football match on the Weirfield in Rawton, and I can remember as a kid, like Don Rogers and John Trollope. They must have had like I doubt if it was a Swindon Town 11, but they had a number of Terry Woolen as well. They all came and played on the Weirfield against like various pubs. So I can remember going around with beer mats and getting their autographs on the back of beer mats. And thinking about it, they would have probably been in their 40s. Maybe this was like the 80s. So I can't remember if Don had the old tash at that point. But so I sort of followed them since then, and had kind of come in and out of games. I can remember, the awful like relegation and things like that, and then kind of moved from Swindon and sort of followed them from afar. But really, kind of during the kind of the lockdown period, and seeing like the trouble and the difficulty that the club was in then, kind of really felt like actually we're in danger of losing something really wonderful here. And so we watched, on iFollow, some of the games during the lockdown, and then decided actually to commit, because we've got children now as well, like let's commit to season tickets. So then we've been going since then. So it's been, but I'm kind of, as I say, sort of following from afar and dipping in and out. But it was that real kind of the roller coaster of the history that made me think, this would be great for this, the children's book.
Sure, and that's the point of this, isn't it, Hannah? We're going to talk about the book that you're putting together shortly, but also the memories that Jill has just said. So many people have their own stories about following Swindon Town Football Club, don't they? And how it all started, and memories from their days gone by. I mean, I remember when I first started going, there was a bloke who used to carry an urn of tea round on his back, round the ground. I mean, now you would no chance of being able to do that.
Yeah.
And a man dressed as a moonraker with a moon with a rake with bacon hanging from it, things like that. And they're the sort of things that stick in your mind and kids would remember. So they're the sort of memories you're after.
That's exactly what we're after. Yeah, exactly that, Vic. So quirky things that everybody will go, oh my God, I've forgotten about that. Yes, of course. So eventually, when we finish this book and it's out, what we want is something that is a really good book to share. So, okay, it's aimed at children. So it's a book that won't require, amazing reading skills. It'll be mainly about pictures and short bits of information. But it's a lovely book to share, intergeneration sort of sitting. So it could be parents with children, it could be grandparents with children, and everybody's got stories that they can relate and tell and share. It might, really hook children who haven't got an interest in football to say, actually, I would like to go and see a game. We're hoping for that. And we would just like to help sort of put together something that makes people feel that they've got something really special here, and to promote that sort of feeling of community. And the footballing community is really special. And just get all those great emotions going, and just make it a really pleasure to read, and get kids who are reluctant readers to also want to pick a book up and read it, because it's completely for them. Because a lot of books are still about animals and magic and, great, but we want something that is a three-dimensional thing you can go and touch. You can go, you can watch a game, you can have a great time, you can have a terrible time, and also the whole idea that Gilly had about this needs to teach children a bit more about resilience as well, that life isn't dead easy, that you really have to work hard for things. These are all the lessons that football can teach us, and football sort of has its own extended family as well. All the the people that put a game together that make it happen, like the kit men and the people that keep the grounds, and the people in the back office doing the admin, and people like yourselves who voluntarily get the support club. I mean, that's a real classic. People in the shop, everybody sort of spinning these plates to make this one event, the game, happen every week, twice a week during the season. So it's absolute story gold. It really is. So you've got the story of what's happening on the pitch, but we're also interested in stories that are happening in the stands as people are watching, or on the way to the games, how they travel to away games, how they're feeling, and just funny, quirky things that we can include. Can't guarantee that we'll include everything that we're told, but we like some things to give it that resonance, that make it more realistic and make it funny as well, and sort of touching. So, but we don't want to have to make it up, which is daft, because the real stories are better than the ones in our heads.
Absolutely. If I give an example of we've taken both grandsons recently, and one of them we've taken to his first game at Swindon, and he stayed with us overnight because it's a long journey up there. And he woke up in the morning and he went, "It's Swindon Day," and he was very excited about the whole thing. And it turned out to be the 6-0 win over Crawley. And the thing is,
wow.
Yeah, it's not like this all the time. It's nothing like it's not like this every week. Steve says, "Hi Vic, could you ask Hannah about Dog Rogers? Is he coming home?" This is about the great big dog trail, of course, which went round town.
I can tell you about Dog Rogers. This
Excellent.
is phenomenal news. Oh my God, you won't believe the coincidence. So I went to the here you go, the Swindogs auction last Tuesday, which is really exciting, and it went on for hours. Let me tell you, there were 34 dogs, and Dog Rogers has been bought by the people that live opposite my house. Get in. And they Save on Tyres. So I think they're going to start off by putting dog at Save on Tyres, their HQ. That's in the Cheney Manor estate, so get your tyres there. And then if they want to, they might bring it back into their back garden, which I can see from my upstairs windows. So I'm very pleased about that. I just thought that's brilliant.
Will it be going back to the county ground at any time? I mean, I don't know if you talked to them about it, but you don't know.
County ground would have to talk to my neighbours.
Fair enough.
I can let you know details and addresses afterwards. Yeah, but it would
Because
be a nice thing to have.
it would be fabulous, and the kids love to have their picture with it, don't they, outside the ground, and it's fantastic. And the thing is, Gilly, you're involved with the museum, as I am as well. You've been doing a lot of scanning of pictures. This is all to preserve the heritage and tell the history of the football club.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been painstakingly sorting photographs. So myself and Vic and Chris and a handful of other people were in the county ground back in July, and we were tasked with emptying cupboards, and there were artifacts in the cupboards that haven't been seen for years. There were some really amazing pieces and really like interesting treasures. I mean, one that springs to mind was a handkerchief that was given to the club when they played QPR in about 1908 or something like that, and it was a handkerchief from the then Queen that had been embroidered, and it's really beautiful. So there's really interesting things like that, and trophies, and lots of pictures of Elton John from when Elton John played at the county ground, but stacks of photos. So I spent about 2 days and just going through the sort of 1991 season, going through all the player headshots and all the names of people, John Moncur and Craig Maskell and Fraser Digley and Sean Taylor. I mean, there are about 32 sort of Sean Taylors. So I was like, had them alphabetically, and I was thinking, right, I'll go home once I've done Sean Taylor, and he was going on forever. So yeah, they're all being catalogued. They'll all be digitized. So this will all be there for the museum and for the future going forward. Capturing all of that history, and there's so many more photos as well still to do. And I think I've only uncovered maybe 2 or 3 seasons worth of photographs. So there must be somewhere else that there will be a whole lot more as well.
It's incredible. It's vital this is kept as well. This is the whole point of the museum, preserving the heritage. My dad missed my birth watching Swindon. I was always going to be a Town fan for sure, says Sean. How about that? That's a cracking story, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's things like that. Oh, here we go. Love this. I love the match day routine, selfies, high fives, and hat stealing.
Nice.
Swindon as a town is seen as a joke, but they don't know its true beauty, people and places. That's from Rockin' Robin official. So, hi, Robin.
Okay.
I'll give you a handshake on Saturday. I mean, this is the point, isn't it? I always remember the celery that used to go flying up and down the town then, says Lee.
Celery.
Yeah, I won't repeat
Probably not to mention that. Yeah.
Yeah, I won't repeat the celery song.
Oh,
it's not.
A shame. I was thinking that would be a lovely thing for the book, but maybe not. No,
not the words to the song, Hannah. We'll leave that out if that's okay.
But we would like some songs. We do want to feature the songs, because the songs are just. I love. That's one of my favourite things, and we had it in the last home game. Is where, because I sit in the Don Rogers, and when you can hear, and then the atmosphere that day, I can't. My memory is terrible, so I can't even remember what the game was. I don't retain information, but the atmosphere was just extraordinary, and I love that when you hear the sound of the songs coming back to you from the Arkle stand. It's just magical. It's hair on the back of the neck stuff.
Yeah, the atmosphere has been great this season. The football's been great this season. I think that's helped, hasn't it? And it's really helped to sort of lift the level. I mean, the thing is, Hannah, these are the stories you want, isn't it? You want people's experiences. You want photographs, if possible, because you want to put illustrations in this book. So how will it work?
So what I would like is that if people don't mind sending in photographs and their anecdotes, stories, memories, is that we wouldn't guarantee to put them in the book, but we might take bits of each. And if I was doing a crowd scene, I could use the photos from that appropriate year or decade to get that authenticity in, and just use I copy people's faces. So I would get the photo and I wouldn't trace, but I just copy their faces. So you will be recognizable. So you would when the book eventually comes out, you will scan it and go, oh my God, I'm in. That's definitely me next to my dad. And there, that was the photo that we were at that game in 1983, whatever it was. Yeah, and sort of things like, I know I can't include the celery, but if the celery had please words to it, I would have just done like a sort of somebody holding a stick of celery in the crowd scene, and then somebody will know what that's about, and everybody else won't know, but they'll just think, well, you know, it's part of the course. So sort of harmless extra bits just to create all that interest, so that when you get the book, you read it once, you like it, you go back to it, you notice more and more things that we've included. Then the penny drops, because you realize that what happens on one page, maybe there's another generation, you know, sort of 20 years later, and I've included them, and the same people have aged, but they're still going to the matches. We've got one family in mind, haven't we, Julie, for that? 5 generations of Swindon fans. So we'd like to put them across the book, not in any huge way, but just if you scan, you'll find them in the pictures. So that's the plan at the moment. That's what we're thinking.
Fantastic. Just to go on about the celery, not that I'm not going to sing the song, but for those who might remember the Wigan playoff game away, they had a grass bank and the place was covered in celery. It was extraordinary. And I always remember the police banned it at one stage for it being because it was an offensive weapon. I'll leave you to, anyway, there we are. Yeah. Blackburn home 1990 playoffs. The town end felt like it was plugged into the national grid. There you are. That's about the atmosphere. I mean, Julie, how difficult is this putting together? Because, you know, everybody, and the email address is going across the bottom of the screen occasionally. So you'll be able to send it into that. How difficult is this to collate? Because it's like with the museum, you know, stuff's coming in all the time and people are saying, I've got this at home, I've got this at home, I've got this at home. How difficult was that to get together?
Well, we've started having a few conversations with people, so it is just kind of literally kind of taking notes, and you know, gathering that information. But also, Hannah's got we've sat down and kind of worked through a kind of plan of how, I mean, Hannah, you know, it's Hannah's work obviously, but she just got a mock-up of of the book and the layout and things like that. So we've talked. And we should mention, of course, Dick Mattick, who the club historian, because we're doing this with the club's blessing as well. And Dick is the kind of the historical advisor. So we're making sure that, you know, we're going right back to the beginning with the club. So we've got a structure that starts in 1879. And then goes through some key periods, and including the 1969, of course, and then coming after that, the kind of the ups and downs. So yeah, having that structure helps. We sort of know what we're looking for, but yeah, we're just really keen to get I think for me as well, it's that perspective of. I really love that kind of intergenerational piece of that, you know, families pass this down to the grandchildren, and what that means to go to football as a family and things like that. And so we've got some historical, historical pieces, but then we're also interspersing that with some of these kind of fun elements. So we're really interested in, like Hannah said, the routines for the day, for the game. We're also interested, we're going to see if we can talk to the kitmen, because I can remember Steve saying about having to cut off 1.5 inches of Dion Conroy's shirt every time he played, every time he had a new shirt. So I'm really and Sol Bryn and his toes, right? So I'm really interested in, because I think that's the kind of thing kids would be interested in as well. So getting those kind of funny snippets in, you know, it isn't just about, as Hannah said, it isn't just about what happens on the field. So the songs, you know, what makes it that experience. And then of course we've got that, we're not forgetting about the women as well. So, you know, we had, is Fanny Williams, is that right?
Williams, yeah, Fanny Williams of Winifred Street, was this fantastic player in the women's team before the FA kiboshed it in 1922, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll kind of bookend the book with the women's teams actually, because Julie will come to that in a minute. I'm sorry, Jill, but
that's all right.
Yeah, I'll let you carry on because you explain it so much better.
They had a very good win at the weekend, we should say, the women's team as well at Portishead, I think it was. They won yesterday, so congratulations to them.
Yeah, no, they're brilliant. So, and I think, it's about all of those things, and the future, because obviously, in the last year we've had significant things happen, like buying the ground and bringing the women's team into the game, and then you've got all the brilliant stuff that happens with Commonweal and the Nigel Eady training centre. So there's going to be a nod to all of those things, and I think it's just when you list everything that I've just listed, how brilliant is Swindon Town Football Club. So many things going on, so many people involved, thousands of people week in, week out, and it's they're the heart of this book.
The wonderful thing, Hannah, is that you go to football every week and you'll sit with the same people that we have for years and years and years, and the only time you ever see them is at football. But you have this kind of relationship with them, which goes back a long, long way, and it's the sort of relationships that you cherish, really.
Well, that's your footballing family, isn't it?
It is, and the sad thing is, post-COVID, of course, you looked around for those people who weren't there anymore, and that was one of the sad things of that whole experience, which many of us would have known. I've got some more comments. Kevin says, I remember the days when fans waved a white hanky in the crowd and the St. John ambulance went into the crowd to treat collapsed fans. Wow. Steve says, losing Swindon Town will be just terrible, and the rich history of the town and the way it changes your life and the focus it gives you, which is very much what we've just been saying. And Andy says, listening to the memories while I work on the 1950-51 programs for the museum. Football programs themselves are an extraordinary social history as well, because of the advertisements. I mean, we talked before, and looking at old evening advertisers with pictures of dresses, the fashions of the day, things like that from 1969. That whole thing, it's an incredible social history, isn't it, Hannah?
Oh God, yes. I love things like that. I'm just a glutton for things like that. So I'm hoping that this is exactly what the museum at the STFC ground will be able to put on display. I mean, I'm not sure how they're going to do it, what the plan is, but they've got the most amazing collection, and we are lacking a museum at the moment. So while we're waiting for something special to come along, let's have our own, because it's such a breadth of interesting stuff. And like you're saying about the fashions, I can't wait to get on with the hairdos. As a bit progressives, sideburns and moustaches and long short shorts, all those things that you just think, God, really? Did we wear that? Did we look like that? Oh yeah, here's the proof.
So, my hair was a lot longer in those days. I can tell you.
We all had hair. I'm really looking forward to that.
So you've started to work on it. I mean, you've got a rough outline of the book there, haven't you?
Yeah.
Show us what you got so far.
Well, literally, as Julie said, I'm ever so very low tech about this. I literally have paper, I'll have the right number of pages, and I have post-it notes, and then I put all the information I want on the post-it notes. If it starts to build up and there's too much of it on a page, then I know that I need to cut some out. And that's part of the problem is not what to include but what to leave out, because you could just go on and on and on. But a children's book is traditionally 32 pages, so I'm sticking with that for now. I've managed to get one photo. This is Fanny Williams and the gang.
Fabulous.
I think it's about 1921, I think that one. So that photo won't go in, but I will do a version of it as a drawing. And then it's basically, at the moment, it's just more and more post-it notes, and it says I've got here 1950s hooter. So I've got to remember to have the hooter going, because the hooter still goes at the beginning of every match, and it's a bit subliminal. People don't realise it's going off, because I said to Dick Mattick recently, do you not hear the hooter? And he said, no, we don't have the. Yes, we have the hooter at the beginning of every match. And I think that is things like that are such a vital link to Swindon's past, and it's only heard at the county ground before a match. That's the only time you will hear it, which I just think is really special. So 1950s, this is just one post-it note. So politeness, gentlemanly behaviour, pay, brackets, lack of, You know, and the message is it's not about the money. People didn't play to get rich, did they? They played for the passion and the love of the game. Still true today. Bert's Babes. So one of my hairdressers has a friend who told me all about the fact that they flew to games during the 1950s because it was before the motorways had been built. So I think children will find that really fascinating, and that's the key, is what will a child find really interesting and fascinating, and will really make them think. Like, life before motorways is unimaginable for children, but to have to fly to a match in Manchester because you couldn't get a coach through country lanes, it really opens up quite a few other ideas as well. That's a really strange concept. In the 1950s, you could still have a tractor, you know, a plough pulled by a horse, couldn't you? It was a funny time after the war when things were not modern at all, and people were still playing in really bad conditions, but just doing it because they liked it. It was very different and a bit more primitive, I would have said. But
yeah, absolutely. This is from Rich. Brilliant stuff. I wish I had some photos. Does anyone have photos of the man who came on to touch and anoint the goalpost 1960 onwards?
Wow.
Yeah, you see, that's an extraordinary memory. And now you've said it, the Moonraker man. Yeah, so that's what I mentioned earlier, the man with the rake and the bacon hanging down. You see, they're the sort of memories that suddenly come to people's mind when you say about them.
Explain, what did the man with the rake and the bacon do to the goalpost?
He went and touched it, as I understand, with the bacon, if I remember right. Yeah.
I need detail.
This is a long time ago, Hannah. I can barely remember what happened to Morecambe on Saturday, to be honest. But
that might be a bit weird.
Yeah. I always remember. Yeah. Arsenal. I always remember Arsenal League Cup quarterfinals '79. Dashed home from school, quick change, then off to the ground. Got as far as the transfer, single bridge at the time. You know where Swindon transfer is. Not even 4:30, and that's where the queue was. What a night! What a result! One of the greatest nights in our history. Fabulous. And I just remember after we got our second goal, one of the stewards picked the ball up. We got a corner, and he kissed it, and he put it on the corner. It was fabulous. What a night that was. Yeah. So another thing you see from the past is rattles, which kids don't have any. Now, wooden rattles are a thing from the past that many people would have had. And how difficult is it to get children? I don't know, about what age group are we talking about here? What are you aiming at?
Well, I mean, the book, wave that again. That book has been given to and read by children who are 4 up to 90. I'm not kidding. Because the pictures do the talking. So if you're not a reader, you just look at the pictures, and as you get older, then you start to pick up the text.
Sure.
But yeah, things like rattles. Children don't mind that things are strange. They don't expect to understand everything, but they are intrigued by everything. And then they'll turn to an adult and say, what on earth is this? And I think most adults would recognise a rattle. I mean, I remember them because my uncle had one, and it was ridiculously loud. You could just swing it round. But, you know, my dream is to get this book into schools as well, so that you can actually go into schools and take these items from the STFC museum and go in and actually talk about it, because that would be the most riveting afternoon for children. They would love it. And I just think it's really important to strengthen those community links, because traditionally Swindon Town has always picked its players, talent spotted from local schools. And I think that's also terrific. So it doesn't pay lip service. It tries to be local even now.
It's interesting. We were in the Legends the other day, and there's a lady that comes in here every week called Helen, and she brought in a fabulous silk handkerchief, and it had a picture of the Swindon Town kit on and a player from an old cigarette collection from the 1930s, I think it was. You know, things like that are absolutely magnificent, aren't they? Because they're just brilliant parts of the. Sorry, I'm just reading stuff at the moment, which is coming in. Fabulous. They're a really fabulous part of social history. All these things like, you know, cigarette cards and all this thing. This is from Claire. Hello, Claire. Good evening, all. Great to see you both ladies on tonight. I remember my first encounter at the county ground. I was completely gripped by those huge floodlights greeting you. Still am. But my first venture to a game was being snuck into the town end, where I learned some great songs to sing at school a few days later.
Yeah.
Yes, and you might learn a few words that you never knew before as well.
Tony says, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible.
Learning
Tony
those words,
says,
you think,
yeah, Tony says, hope you put the old turnstiles in the Trivenham Road. Many great memories and standing on the Stratton Bank. The Sunderland game when the Stratton Bank goalpost broke because there was one season when they took stanchions, I think, off the back of goals, and I think it was Tony Goff sort of collided with the goalpost and it collapsed. It's quite a famous moment. Everton fans hanging from the floodlights and on the top of the Shrivey Road stand in 1977. As a kid, I remember the smell of fans smoking pipes and cigars in the crowd.
wow,
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Do we do that?
We probably can't do that, can we?
Probably can't do
No.
it. I know. I'm so
Yeah.
tempted though.
Yeah, well, it also ties in with this: the fire at the Stratton Bank end versus Spurs in 1980, Burger Van, wasn't it? But if I remember right, it was a programme stand which went up twice in a week. We had Wolves in the semi-final of the League Cup on the Tuesday and Spurs on the Saturday, and it was 2 successive times. Again, interesting, but whether you could put fires in there, I don't know. Is that?
I do. That is interesting. I don't. I've made a note of it. I wonder if we could. Yeah. So what year was that?
It was 1980, I think. Yeah, it was an FA Cup against Tottenham.
Yeah.
Glenn Hoddle, Ozzy Ardiles,
God.
they were all playing for Tottenham in those days.
I wonder if you could almost do a tiny image of a van or some smoke, just smoke at the back. But it is a bit the dodgy territory. Thinking what happens with fires and stadiums.
Sure,
it's not
absolutely.
great.
I always remember in my old job, I used to do a piece about archaeology, and we talked about when Accrington Stanley's ground was demolished. And the stuff they found underneath the ground was a massive part of social history. Yeah. What people took to football, because in the old days, you used to take a lot of stuff to football. And that's another aspect, isn't it? What do families take to football? Like bags of sweets, all that kind of stuff.
Rosaries. Yeah, coins dropping through, things like that. Yeah, and cigarette paraphernalia, probably.
Yeah.
No,
so when do you hope this might actually happen? When is your...
well, so originally, Jill, we were thinking by Christmas it would be a Christmas blockbuster, but I think unless I gave up work during the day, I probably couldn't do it until January, February now, which is a shame, but better late than never.
But we like the idea of tying it in with World Book Day, of course, which happens, I think it's the 8th of March or in and around there. And it would be lovely if we could have, what I'd love is if like some of the players or, the manager could potentially go to schools and read to the children. Because I know they usually do social media posts around that time. So I'd love to see that.
Of course, March the 15th will be 65 years since the League Cup final.
Oh, God.
That'd be a nice little tie-in, wouldn't it, for you?
Yeah.
Get it launched that week. That would be superb.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
So, in terms of what you do and you don't leave out, how difficult is it to decide what you do put in?
Everything goes in until we pull it out. I think it's like that.
Going in is easier, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. Because everything is, that's brilliant. Yeah. I put it. And then you just can't. It's 32 pages. And it would just, you need shape as well. Like Julie was saying, that it is like, it's not exactly a timeline, but it's in the right order. And we wanted to depict the highs and lows, but the continuum of fans running throughout the book. So like we said, the same families, but different generations and kids getting older and becoming adults and bringing their own children. So that continuity as well. And just how things have got better, but they've stayed the same. Mm-hmm. So the values of football are the same.
Yeah, the principle, isn't it? I mean, it's the principle of going to a game on a Saturday. They haven't changed. It's just the personnel and the conditions and all that kind of thing have changed.
Yeah.
This is from Trevor. Sitting in the old North Stand at night games, my dad telling me off for not watching the matches. I was amazed at all the lights going on and off. Light sparkles all around the ground. People were lighting up their cigarettes. This is a lovely image.
Lovely image, yeah.
Yeah, that is sweet.
Harold Fleming is a must to go in it. Only Swindon player for England. Flemingway named after him. And I guess Harold's in
He's
there.
in. Don't worry.
Yeah.
He's very much in. Yeah.
But he's one of the ones as well. So one of the other things we've been thinking about is, for children, if you that thought that if you play for your local town, you could potentially get a cap for your country, right? Okay, bear with me. Harold Fleming and caps, okay. But then you've got, Saeed Khan has an England cap. So not an England cap, sorry, the cap from his country. So it's just thinking about this is possible. This is all possible, and there are mechanisms here in and around the county ground to help make that possible.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, when you think about it. Alan McLaughlin, of course, the late great Alan McLaughlin, went off to the World Cup when playing for England, for Swindon. So magnificently sort of got into the World Cup with the Republic. So lots of stuff coming in, and it's great because this has sparked off all sorts of memories, and that's exactly what you want, isn't it? Those memories to be sparked off.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, it is meant to just make you feel really good. And the more I've been thinking about it, since we've started working on it, thinking about how almost 9,000 people, right, every almost Saturdays turning out. I mean, it just, what other walk of life? It doesn't happen, does it? It's only sporting events where you get that. And this is, that's Swindon. You've got all those people turning up. You get, depending on where the away leg is, you can get 1,000 fans will go on a Saturday, Tuesday, because the away support is always phenomenal. And you just, when you think about it in those terms, it's extraordinary to think that people will just do that without question, just commitment. And it's just brilliant.
The crowd surging in the town then from back to front was like a fairground ride to us teenagers. I always remember that. You just had to go in the direction that the crowd went. You didn't have an option.
Was it in the 70s or the 80s?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, in the 70s.
Yeah, that sounds like very 70s behaviour.
Yes, I think. I
think I'm trying to think of ways to include that is suitable for younger children as well. This is the problem, that it's quite adolescent and older behaviour that that it's really tricky, because I would love to put cigarettes in, because it's true, and people did smoke a lot, and those kinds of.
Oh, Hannah's frozen, I think.
Yeah, I think we've had this conversation. It's like some of the songs you couldn't write out in full because of the language. You couldn't put referee as a what. So it's but it's still part of all of this is part of the atmosphere. So we're trying to think of ways to do that. She's back.
She's back. Sorry. Yeah. That's right. Froze for a moment. You see this. This is a lovely story. The Swindon Man United Charity Shield, which I think was, 1908, something like that. And the gate receipts went to the families of those who lost their lives, etc., from the Titanic, which is 1912, of course.
Yeah.
So that's a nice thing to tie in. How relatable can kids find this? Because if you think of horrible histories, of course, which is very popular, the more grisly they like it, don't they? But you've got to sort of attract kids to this sort of story. So how difficult is that?
I think the horrible histories is slightly more remote past, and it happened to other people, whereas this will include people literally that you might recognise. So
yeah, sure.
I think that's why we'd be just a bit careful. But the Man U Shield, the gate receipts going to the Titanic, I'd love to put that in the book, because children would go, oh my goodness, you're joining massive dots there, aren't you? The Titanic was a massive event that everybody's heard of, and Swindon had not something to do with it, but
I think one of the other things was about the prisoner of war camp as well during the Second World War. So again, it's tying, unusual things that happened at the county ground that, as she says, link to something else that's going on.
Sure. John Trollope, I assume Gilly is in. 770 games played, league matches. The amount going to reading despite the competition says a lot of our support Oh, going to Reading. Sorry.
Yeah,
I think we're taking 800.
yeah, exactly.
Which is
It's phenomenal.
extraordinary. Yeah. If you wanted a decent spot on the Stratton Bank, you'd have to get in as soon as the ground opened, before seats, because we used to have both ends, didn't we, at one point?
Yeah.
I mean, what's your first memory? What would your first memory be?
I can remember going to a game, and I'm sure we were in the Swindon Road stand, and it was terraced. I'm sure I have that memory. I remember standing, and I was with my dad, and I can't remember the game because it was so long ago. It would have been the 80s, end of the 80s. But yeah, I remember that, and but not being completely crammed. Like, you could look around and things, and people, like children, stood on beer crates and things like that. Yeah, and then I just remember we went on when we had the relegation, 1991,
1990. Yeah.
1990. That's and the going on a school trip and holding up signs on the back of the coach saying first not third and things like that, and getting like thumbs up or thumbs down from vans and cars. That's something I'm keen to. So that's obviously something that will be featured in the book. So we have to handle that carefully as well, because you don't want to overload children with worries about financial irregularities and things like that. But I showed Hannah the picture of Jimmy Greaves with the Swindon Town fans are innocent, or I can't remember the exact phrasing. So we want to squeeze that image into the book somehow as well.
I remember two stewards bringing around one of Lou Macari's Bell's whiskey gallon bottles he won for being manager of the month, and giving out a tipple in plastic cups to lucky fans. I was a lucky one.
Incredible.
Yeah, because Luke was famously teetotal, and he kept winning these manager of the month Bell's gallon whiskey bottles. So that's quite a nice tale, I think, isn't it? That one.
Yeah. But
This club is.
I was going to say, there's some great stories about Lou Macari, kind of having, I think we've mentioned about it before, having players kind of pulled out of nightclubs and things like that.
Yeah, he had his spies around the town. There's no doubt about that. This club is on its fourth generation of supporters in my family. Grandad, local boy who played for Swindon Reserves, an avid supporter in later years, and has gone down the generations to now my youngest son, who's on his journey, watching with friends amongst the town end. It's great to see how all our journeys have been so very different over the years in the family, but also similarities as well. This club just weaves a thread into your soul. Hannah's back with this, I think.
Yeah.
Which is good to know. Yeah, we're getting more and more stuff coming in. So we will forward all this on to you. And they're great stories. So
I would say as well, if people want to actually have a chat with us, we're more than happy to kind of set up a online call or meet for a coffee or something, and have a chat. It'd be really, really good to get lots of stories.
What would be the actual perfect story for you, Hannah, to go in? What is there one which you think that's the golden nugget to put in?
One that is funny and insightful, makes you think, but just makes you feel everybody will recognise it and make them feel quite warm. It might have a bit of not a moral to the tale, but teach you a bit about the power of doing something again and again and building relationships. Oh, that sounds a bit highfalutin, but a good story is a good story. I mean, a friend of mine has been to one match in his life, but it's burned on his brain because he went with his dad. And it's not a thing his dad used to do ever, but his dad's friend had invited them. And then when Swindon scored a goal, everybody stood up, and the guy behind, the guy in the row behind, spilt his chips down his dad's back. I think that's a really great thing to illustrate, because it's a funny little story, but what it does show is joy, isn't it? And how, the sort of everybody feeling the same way in that one moment, which is like, it's great, like being at a festival, but without the expensive food and the bad toilets. So that's what I'm after, an illustratable story, preferably with photos if you've got them, because then I know exactly what people were wearing and what what kind of hair people had at that moment in the book, because it is a history book, his story book.
Yes.
So,
yeah. Flared jeans in the 70s, things like that. Denim jackets, all that kind of stuff. Our other grandson that we took, he's obviously going to be a football fan. He isn't at the minute, but I think he is, because it was against Walsall. And he said, "Why does the referee notice everything that we do and nothing that Walsall do?" And I thought, oh.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
life.
That's every Saturday.
Yeah. Stratton Bank clock, the only Rolex clock in the football grounds in the world. You've got that in, presumably. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got that one in.
Yeah, excellent. And the ground has changed. Gilly, you were mentioning the Shrivey Road stand. Of course, it was terracing at the bottom, wasn't it? Seats on the top, the old Aldershot military tattoo stand, things like that. Yeah. And they had to be closed when the wind was strong, so it was unsafe. My first memory was 8-0 Bury Saturday. It was before the Arsenal game in '79. I was 8. What a memory that is. That was a fabulous game of football. Drew Arsenal on the Tuesday, beat Bury 8-0 on the Saturday, beat Arsenal 4-3 in the replay. What a week. Best week in Swindon's history, I'd suggest. Yeah. So the illustrations, oh gosh, more coming in, loads, which is fabulous. Been supporting since my dad took me as a 2-year-old. It was 3rd Division South then. Don't remember much about those days, but remember from my early school days, wooden stand by the cricket ground, a shed at Shrivey Road. I remember the T-man going around with a tank on his back. Remember those nets going round at half-time and you'd throw a bit of change in. So many memories I'd love to share. You see, that's a lovely one, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
Into a net. Yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah.
I think that's it as well, isn't it? It's those sort of stories where children are kind of like, I can't believe that you actually did that. I can't believe that actually happened. Because I've heard other anecdotes like, like what they were saying earlier, the hanging off the stands and things like that. And Vinnie Jones, my husband, saw Wimbledon play at the county ground, and Vinnie Jones climbed up, over where the away fans are, and there's before the disabled enclosure, there's a kind of flat small building, and it's not really a building, you know what I'm saying, and he apparently scaled up that to get the ball back, and think there's just crazy little stories. Like, I think it's when the unexpected happens, isn't it? Like, no 90 minutes the same, are they?
No. Or 120 minutes as it seems out now with lots of extra time. Rob, that story about the wooden stand by the cricket ground, etc. Well, we're going to sort of wrap it up in a little while, and we'll get details of how you can get in touch and all that kind of stuff. But really, it's the nuts and bolts, it's the nuggets, isn't it, of why we go to this ridiculous game where 22 people kick a ball about, and makes us so happy or so downright miserable, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And if anybody could tell me why that is, I mean, if you might remember the Harry McCurdy moment against Manchester City, which is, we got stuffed 4-1, but it was just such a joyous moment when he scored against Manchester City. And it's those moments that you live for. And Hannah, how are you going to capture that? Because that is, if you sell that in a shop, you'd be making a fortune, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's right. I think it's just the expressions on the faces. That's what I need. And everybody with their arms in the air and just that roar. I can actually write roar across the top of the get really graphic on it. So yeah, really exciting. I said to Julie, what I've got to have on almost every page is a picture of somebody hoofing a ball. I'm not going to have anybody standing still being thoughtful. It's going to be action, action, action. And just that anticipation. That's what I'm going to try and, if you can draw anticipation, that's what I'm going to try and do. Vic, can I just mention that Dick Mattick is going to be doing a talk at Rawton Library in October?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
How do I get that out there? What's the best way?
Well, we'll certainly publicise it. We can put it out. Dick, who's forgotten more about Swindon Town than I actually know. I mean, he's an extraordinary. If you ask him anything about Swindon Town Football Club, Swindon Cricket Club, or indeed Somerset County Cricket Club, Dick knows. It's that simple. It's extraordinary. So yeah, we'll certainly publicise that.
Great. He's been a tremendous support to us. So yeah, I'd really like to help him promote this, because he's going to do an interesting talk, and then people are encouraged to bring along artifacts and stories again.
Yes.
About Swindon Town Football Club. This time they can include flyers and cigarette cards. That's absolutely fine. So this is just for Dick, because he's going to help put those back into the museum as well.
Yes, he is.
Like to
I think I got more memories. I think it was St. John went round the ground with the blanket, throw your coins in for a donation.
Okay.
So that's what that was about.
But
When
was
I
it
was 6 years,
or a
sorry,
fishing- was it
Sorry?
a blanket or was it a blanket or a fishing net then, the money thing? Or was it paid?
I'd go with a blanket because the money wouldn't fall through the holes then, would it?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. When I was 6 years old, my neighbour asked me if I would like to go to Swindon football. I asked my parents if it was okay to go, and they said yes. We boarded the train at the old Challow station. 5 shillings was the fare. 74 years on, we are still season ticket holders.
Wow,
Fabulous.
lovely.
My first game was in 1987 on my birthday, 26th of September against Reading. Chris Kamara scored 2, but never took the penalty for his hat trick. I was 13.
Yeah.
Oh, John Trollope will also be at that talk that Dick is doing in Wroughton.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Might get Don there as well. We're not sure. He's not sure if he's busy.
Our man might change his wife, but will never change his football team. Come on, you Reds. I mean, that mural that day, to get Chris Kamara there, that was quite a coup because, as we know, he's a bit of a media celebrity.
Oh my
now,
God, he was fantastic. And you know, it was no effort at all. I say no effort. Julie's sister organised it. So for me, it was no effort. But what happened was he'd seen it on Twitter. Thank God for Twitter. And he tweeted me on Coronation Day. So it was King Charles's coronation in one room. And to be fair, I'd had a glass of fizzy pop, I have to admit. Every time King Charles touched something old, my husband said, "Now have a drink," which was, that was a lot of drinking. And then I went through and checked my phone, and I'd had this message from Chris Kamara to say, as the first player of colour for Swindon Town, it would be, and I feel honoured to be in your mural. I was absolutely beside myself. It was the most fantastic message ever. And I immediately wrote back. I hope I kept the tone level. And said, "Well, that's really lovely of you. Thank you so much. If you ever want to come and see it, we'd love to have you." And it sort of went from there. It was amazing. And he was.
It is a staggering likeness, I've got to say.
I really with that because I was getting photographs from Google, and I think I'd taken photographs of photographs that are on the wall in the county ground, and they were all really fuzzy, and I really struggled with it. And plus, they were all really black and white, kind of that sort of slightly grey toned image. It was quite tricky to see what was what. And then since then, of course, if I'd known, I'd have gone to the advert because I'm sure they've got a lot of photos that were really clear. So I'm really glad you said that, Vic. But yeah, it did take a long time to do because every time I did it, he didn't look like him, and I had to keep redoing it. So yeah.
Well, it's a fabulous likeness. More on the blanket. This is from Malcolm. I remember being a ball boy holding a blanket going around the ground whilst everybody was throwing the money. It hurt at times, especially past the town end.
That's
I mean, ironic, isn't it? Because if you did that now through coins, you'd be in trouble, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's extraordinary.
You're arrested. Yeah.
I've got a programme from about 1946, maybe my dad's first game when he moved from Berwick upon Tweed. He'd love you to have it in the museum. Well, we'd love to have it. We lost him some years ago, and he loved the town.
Oh,
yeah. Well, Rob, we'd love to have it, I can tell you.
An email address for that then, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. We need to get
Well, look, both, thank you ever so much. My gosh, we could go on for all night with this because the memories are coming in and we will forward them on, clearly.
So much, guys. Thanks so much. And honestly, if you have photographs as well, that's really, really helpful. I don't have to be at the ground. It's just your opinion of what you're wearing and, what you look like. So I've got some resources to start with. And honestly, thanks.
No, it's all right. I got a picture of a programme that was sent to me today. And I'd written an article in a Plymouth Argyle programme way back in 1991. So, I mean, it's things like that, and there's a horrific picture of me in a 1980s Swindon programme as well, which you wouldn't want to show to small children.
Oh, yes, you
would. Yes, you
would. Trust me, you wouldn't. Lovely. Thank you ever so much. It's been great, Chris, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Hannah and Gillian. Brilliant. As Vic said, I'll collate all the Hannah's gone. I'll collate all the comments that have come through and send them off to you, so you've got them. And if you need any names or email addresses for names, if there's something specific you want to talk to them about, then we can sort that out for you as well. So
Brilliant.
we will do
Thank
that. So brilliant. Thanks everybody for watching. No problem. Thanks everybody for watching, and also linking in with this, just to save the date at the moment, Wednesday the 22nd of November, the OSC will be doing a live event in the Legends Lounge of the 95-96 promotion winning team. Of course, we're going to invite
85-86.
Hannah and Gilly to that.
85-86.
What did I say? 95, 85, 86. Seems so long ago. And of course, I'll be inviting Hannah and Gilly to that so they can speak to the players. We've had 6 or 7 players already saying yes. A couple are just looking at the date to make sure it's okay. So keep your eyes open for more information on that as we get it. Okay,
Brilliant.
so thanks very much, Gillian. Hannah,
Thank
go away for the moment. You stay where you are. But we will see everybody else next week. It'll be an Monday night panel next week. Game against Grimsby on Saturday. So let's hope we can extend our unbeaten run. So Vic's got his finger up. Yes, Vic.
Can we just mention Melksham once again? If you're in the Melksham area on Wednesday night at 7:30, we'd love to see you at Melksham Town Football Club. Just come along. It's free entry, but any money's raised will go to Derby Rimmer. Phil King, Paul Bowden will both be there. I spoke to Phil King today. They're definitely coming. So it should be a good evening. We'd love to see you there.
Fantastic. Okay, so have a good week, everybody, and we hope to see you on Wednesday, if not on Saturday, if not next Monday. Okay, speak to you soon.
Bye.
Oh, blimey, how did that go? Let's get me fun.